Cool Figure TV. Revolutionary salute. Revolutionary salute. Like, share, subscribe. Welcome to the House of Revolution. You know I'm your humble host, the Yao Ming of Revolution. History exposed. Who are these people? Where did they come from? But before we get into that, be sure to wipe your feet. That means hit the like button. You in the House of Revolution. Like, share, subscribe, support the platform, y'all. We're going to dig into some historical information that I don't think the bigots is going to like. They don't know their own history. Let's get into the content. Salute.
Now in Columbus, Ohio, we are given one of the most important narratives to this point, to our research, in my opinion. We have the Pontifical College, Josephinum, where Joseph comes over to the USA from Germany in 1867. 3 years later, he becomes a priest and has his own church within a few months. And he gets to buy the house next door, of course, to support 12 orphans. And do we all know about the orphans at this point? Possibly a repopulation tactic that was going on in the 1800s. It's very interesting.
Very important to understand this part. These orphans, these are who these people ancestors told them lies. This is the real truth. They have no idea who their mothers, their fathers was. They was just giving names. They have no idea all that we came from Germany. They people don't know. Ancestors just told them that because it was all made up. Bunch of historical lies. Now it's the rude awakening is here.
Was it only 12 orphans, or was this one of the places that they would send the orphans through to get them into society? Because who would ever question Joseph the priest from the 1800s? You know, the guy that just randomly shows up from Germany, has all the money ready to buy houses somehow to support orphans.
And that's why historically at some time they just came up with a name: Green, Brown, Williams, Blackman. They just made it all up because they don't know where they came from.
It all checks out, of course. Simple stuff for Joseph. This was known as the St. Joseph Orphan Asylum. It grew so rapidly for some weird and, of course, very random reason that 5 years after it began, Joseph moved the operation closer to the railroad, which is how these individuals would be dispersed throughout the country. So this is a paragraph of admission. We are being told down to the smallest detail how this operation worked. It would go through churches. They would bring a manager type over from Europe, call them a priest, give them a house, give them the resources to run these operations, purchasing new buildings with ease to run the program. So not only do you have the World's Fairs that were a repopulation tactic, you had these orphan trains and orphan hubs where they would be dropped off and planted into society. The new facility that Joseph was just finding and saying was his. I want to make that clear. He wasn't building anything. He was given these buildings that were already there from the previous civilization. So the new building gave the orphans a training in the trades. So this Joseph guy was obviously sent with a purpose to repopulate and teach to a brand new society, one that didn't have any skills. This right here is how you reset a society's technology level. The teacher is never in charge of what the students learn. This Joseph character is a teacher of a class. He is not the principal of the school. There are many schools. He is clearly taking direction as to what the students of the new society will learn. There were many classes like this one all over the country, happening simultaneously. This was an operation. This went on for 12 years with zero backstory. Finds the Collegium Josephinum, this massive college, is just found and ready to roll. No clue where the money came from. No mention of how many men were needed to build this place. Just found it. And its first class of 23 men began. It's unbelievable. This is one of the most important stories to our research, in my opinion, because it shows exactly how the operation took place. It's actually laying it all out there and shows us exactly how they repopulated these regions in the USA. It shows us the operation with the orphans, the teaching programs. And this was our base for our technological knowledge. Whoever controlled this operation from the top has all of the technology from the previous civilization and is controlling what technology we get to have. And they've clearly been doing this for a very long time. And for anyone that's on the fence, we have the St. Vincent's Infant Asylum, located in Baltimore, where we have tunnels under the ground. This infant asylum was in use in the mid-1800s, during the same time period as German transfer Joseph. And what do you know? In the early 1900s, the operation was done, and they declined new orphans. 1941, they changed this to apartments. And in 2015, they light it up and try to destroy it with a fire, but they fail. So 3 years later, what do you think happens? 2018, the building was illegally demolished without a permit. You literally can't make this stuff up. It gets more and more obvious if you're still on the fence. Let's go even deeper. We have the St. Mary's Orphan Asylum, located in Galveston, Texas, where they tell us that this one is haunted. Now, I've talked about hauntings before briefly. I'm not going to say that there aren't any hauntings, but when it comes to these old world buildings, I think it was a tactic to keep people away from them. Just say that they're haunted, and it scares everyone away from investigating. So we have yet again another orphan operation going on in the mid-1800s. And I'm just going to let you know that this is going on and on and on. There were so many orphan operations going on in the mid-1800s because this was how they were repopulating these cities. So where were all these kids' parents? Is this where a lot of our families originated from? Is this why the family trees in the USA almost all end around the same time period?
Now listen to what he's saying. They've always told us we didn't have our history because they burnt. They have no idea where they came from because they've been lying. They orphan babies, they test tube babies, and that's the truth. And they find the information is here. They just don't want it.
We are told hundreds of fire stories through the first 52 episodes. We know that that is the key and the nod that it's a building that was constructed by the previous civilization. The St. Mary's Orphan Asylum. For anyone wondering where the parents of these orphans were, you might want to check the other asylum, the Insane Asylum, because they were not going along with the reset. Here's a graph showing that the insane asylums are disappearing over time. And I wonder why. Good thing they cared so much about us in 1955 and 1965, because surely that was the fix. Oh, it wasn't? And then a fire had devastated the St. Mary's Orphan Asylum in 1875. If anyone is still on the fence, there is room over here to get off the fence. And honestly, who would want to sit on top of a fence anyway? So we have Ohio, Baltimore, Texas. We have all these towns and cities being repopulated. Brand new people, brand new social structures, brand new mindsets, and resetting what people are taught. This all happened around 150 years ago. So this is all very new. This isn't thousands of years ago. Then we have another very interesting aspect of this in Germany during the same exact time period. And remember, we also have good old Joseph from earlier, also from Germany. So here we are given the Kinderbewahranstalt. And if I pronounce that wrong, I hope you all understand. This is where we are given kindergarten, another tactic to teach children the brand new social structures. What better way to trick people? Take them out of their family's home and tell them what to think, and then test them on it. Failing the test will then lower your self-esteem, putting a social pressure on children to agree with this new way of thought, or they will be called dumb and get an F. This is an operation. It's all connected, and it's designed to enslave the world's population. Year after year, we are all taught a false narrative. We've all been brainwashed into thinking that you are either smart or dumb based on a curriculum that holds zero value in the real world. Now, who knows if this Frederick Froebel was even a real character, but they do admit that kindergarten starts in Germany around the exact same time period that we're talking about, the mid-1800s. So I wanted to tie it all in with the rest of the world. This is a worldwide operation. This is not just the USA. We have a lot of things in the USA being controlled through Germany during this time period, especially the education aspect of it.
All these Europeans lying to us about their great ancestors came from Europe. That's a lie. Their great ancestors was test tube babies, and they was in these orphanages. That's the truth. Even this white guy admit they're talking about that they go back to 1400. If they don't have no goddamn records that say none of that shit is made up. It's made up. The real historical records is these orphanages, them orphanages, them insane asylums, and they ass as test tube babies and things of that nature. That's just true.
Of it. And I want to point out that, yes, we have borders and division now. We're also running a fundraiser to help families with medical debt. Every dollar wipes out about $100 of debt. Nobody's waking up today asking for medical debt, which is why I picked this fundraiser. The system that we all live in is obviously a mess, and it's not set up to help people at all. We're all in it together. And I think the only way to see real change is able to travel to other lands unless you have a piece of paper that is registered and checked at the checkpoints. But who's to say that there even was a border in the previous civilization? Were there so-called elected leaders controlling everyone, deciding what we can and cannot do? Could they have had a truly free life where they were able to travel wherever they want freely and not feel like they're invading someone else's territory? I would say, in my opinion, this was the world that was here before the reset. And something happened where this past civilization was wiped out and their technology was stolen by a group. And some of it is now being sold back to us strategically. The good stuff is kept to control the masses and used for their benefit. Here we have the St. Joseph's Orphanage, located in Vermont. And if you want to know where they get these horror movies, where they show a nun doing crazy things, there's a dark truth to it. These movies don't come out of nowhere. They come from the last 150 years. Here in Vermont, in the mid-1800s again, thousands of children came through its doors. If you want to demoralize, control, and manipulate a new population, make them completely forget their past and never question what they're told, you would make them suffer. You would take them from their families, and you would ruin their mind at a young age. We have more than 5 million American children passing through the orphanage system in the 1900s alone, hitting its peak in the early 1900s. So it began in the mid-1800s and really ramped up to populate these cities. The American orphanage system included more than 1,600 institutions, partly supported by public funding, but usually run by religious orders, exactly like we talked about in the beginning of this episode. So I think we have now a very solid understanding how the USA was repopulated, how this operation took place, and exactly when it took place. I think that we now have factual evidence as to when this reset really happened. And I think that every episode that is released makes episode 10 and 38 stronger and stronger, giving us more and more proof to our true history. Tunnel Company went out of business, of course, and sold everything for $64,000. To who? Who bought this company and acquired all of their assets, or the old world's assets? According to the Chicago Tribune, the city assumed control of the tunnel system. So there we have it, where we find out that more buildings are connected, or they used to be, when in the early 1940s, the subway cut it off from the major department store clients along State and Dearborn, such as the Boston store. They have an underground tunnel. Carson Perry Scott got one too. The Fair, the Davis store, Mandel Brothers, and F.W. Woolworth and Company. All of these buildings got a tunnel back then, all connecting these buildings. And we, of course, remember the accidental flood from 1992, where it was, of course, an accident. Wait, what is this? A court case where it was revealed that the city was aware the tunnel was leaking before the flood. And the city basically allowed it to happen, where they knew it was leaking and did not properly maintain the tunnel, allowing for the breach and the destruction of the tunnel. Very interesting information. I wonder why they allowed it in 1992, where we are told that a man named George W. Jackson led the Illinois Tunnel Company. And when you begin to dig into this guy's narrative, it begins to reveal everything. When we find an article in the Chicago Examiner from January 1909, this entire operation, this company, is tied to something very strange here. Remember when we were told the public map in 1910? Well, right before 1910, an event took place in 1909, 1 year before. The cost of construction had bankrupted the Illinois Tunnel Company, which is the exact same year. all a coincidence, of course, that this event took place as well. 1909, same year. 67 didn't make it by fire in an unprecedented lake disaster. Flames follow explosions. All of this happening 2 miles from the shore, inside the tunnels, where 48 were recovered. And it is known that many others are beneath the surface of the lake. Again, I'm going to ask you all, are we sure that these fire narratives are what they are? Are they not nods telling us what they found? I'm simply asking questions because we have seen so many times that these questions end with answers. Exact identification will probably never be made of many of them, for most of them are headless, burned or dismantled, all connected to George W. Jackson Company. Were these bones found within the tunnels, possibly bones of the past, and explained away with this narrative? Trapped in the tunnel 160 feet below the ground, a fire that was actually an explosion, according to Chicagoology.com, where the source of the fire is that an explosion happened 3 minutes before the flames. Destruction of the past, destruction of what they found, where the dates are exact, and now switching from the Illinois Tunnel Company to the Chicago Tunnel Company, where another idea that I'm going to throw out there right now is that, is it possible that these tunnel systems were, of course, there from the past, from the previous civilization, but did these tunnels hold things inside them? Things that we have seen in episodes 72 and 78. Were these tunnel systems found underneath Chicago? Thousands of miles of tunnels. Where else have we seen this? Odessa? Paris? What are inside those tunnels today? Have these tunnels in Chicago been cleaned out of what was once there and then given a new purpose? What are we finding? The deeper we go, the more information we gather. Thinking logically, why would they go through the trouble to create thousands of miles of tunnels under the city when they had dirt roads, creating all of these tunnels and only to use them from 1904 to 1959, using them for only 55 years and then blocking them off to the public? Today, we are going to show mathematically that the population worldwide in the last 1,400 years was basically zero. When the mainstream history tells us that at the exact same time period, where basically nobody was here, they were building palaces, castles, and cathedrals. And before we expose the population lie today, we have to get an understanding of how this all works from the bottom up. Welcome to Reims, France, where we hold one of the most incredible structures in the world, and it's under investigation today. The Reims Cathedral, where we are being told that the construction of this cathedral started in the year 1211, where this is 813 years ago. Now, in the USA, they can tell us that these type of cathedrals were built in the 1800s. So they're at least trying to fit this type of construction into this mainstream timeline that we're given today. But when we go over to Europe, they just don't seem to care one bit. They throw dates around and everyone just accepted it for years. Could you imagine that next week, any city in the world tells us that one of these are going to be thrown together? I think the world would be shocked. Yet, when we are told that this was built 813 years ago, in the year 1211, we all just said, yeah, that sounds like a good year. Until now, because we have patterns to look for, especially when a building holds the fire narrative, where we have found over 100 buildings to this point that hold a fire narrative, which is no longer mathematically possible. And we have found this fire pattern on this channel. And this one's going to be added to the group when we are told that this cathedral in France wasn't even the first one. They had an even earlier church that was destroyed by a fire a year before construction began on this new one. And this one lasts forever. So they knocked this thing out in 80 years when, let's be honest, if we didn't have a power tool or a car or a shipping company or any architectural training processes today, do any of us actually believe that our civilization would just knock this thing out in 80 years? Realistically, I'd love to know in the comments below how long you think this building would take today. I'm interested to see what you all think, especially because we're being told that this building was built over 800 years ago. The fact that we can see these buildings all over the world, they're still here. It's not like I'm talking about something that's a hidden mystery. We can all go there and look at it and then compare it to the buildings that we produce today, which is supposedly over 800 years of evolving and advancing. And it's not even close. So let's think about this for a second. We are supposed to believe that they had construction down and it was perfect since the beginning of time, yet nothing else advanced. Only construction. Building palaces was the only thing the 1200s were good for, apparently. The problem is that the buildings are the only thing that are left from the 1200s, which is exactly why they're forced to make these dates up in order to try to explain them into our fabricated timeline. Whereas a car or a watch, a phone, a plane, and a helicopter, they've all been here before as well. They just aren't built into the ground all over the world for all of us to see, when the buildings are. We are told that the designer of this cathedral was Jean d'Orbais. And who exactly was this master designer? Starting at point guard, making his debut for the France National Historians. Jean constructed the Abbey Church, or did he find it? Where they tell us that the Abbey was found at the end of the 7th century. And don't worry, they had construction down, of course. Still there in the town center today. When they go on to say 600 years later, Jean debuts building the St. Pierre St. Paul Church, where it was built between the end of the 12th century and early 13th century. And we have all of this documented, of course. No. Today, we are going to show that there were mathematically, basically, no people here in the 12th and the 13th century, a time that the mainstream history likes to tell us was knocking out palaces. So they were just throwing dates around, telling us that they
was people here. When they talking about no people, they're talking about themselves. They're not adding us into none of this. I've already done enough research. I'm looking to this. He's telling his people's history, and he's telling it truthfully. We
were in the St. Paul Church between the end of the 12th and beginning of the 13th century, from 800 years ago. And we were all just nodding in acceptance for 200 years with zero documentation proving this. This is all.
A lot of these people, ancestors, did not come from Europe. They test tube babies and they come from orphanages. They have no idea what their history is.
All based on trust. And this group that we're supposed to be trusting has proven to be pretty shady, where they tell us that the architecture is superb, particularly the facade with its 2 towers, the choir with ambulatory, with 5 radiating chapels. Interesting. And telling us that in 1835, that the population of this location was only 1,000 people. And the population of England since 1801, the exact timeline that we're talking about here worldwide, from the beginning point of this fabricated mainstream timeline, beginning around 1776, was at around 9 million people. It has grown to over 56 million in just the last 220 years. So if we do the math on this, the population is decreasing at a rate of 83.92% in just the last 220 years. And this fact alone should get everyone thinking. This stat shows that in the year 1141, the time period that they're talking about here, according to the math, based on data that they're providing, the population of England would sit at 37,898 people in the entire country, having only 37,000 people in the year 1141, and knocking out palaces is not mathematically probable at all. you would think that there would be a single argument that goes the mainstream history's way. You would think that if their tales were true, this type of stuff would not happen. Yet, every single time you go deeper, there is yet another flaw. The worldwide population mathematically was basically zero based on everything that we know and have seen. In my opinion, I believe that anything before 1776 is basically fabricated and an attempt to fit into this timeline that we are all in. And this is when we take it a step further and we go to Spain. And according to the worldometers.info, Spain's population sits at roughly 47 million people, growing around 18 million people in the last 69 years. This drop off of people is so dramatic worldwide that, in my opinion, proves that the beginning of our timeline, our batch of people, was simply not that long ago. This is according to their math, their numbers that anyone in the world can go look at. These people of the 12 and 1300s were supposedly also without shipping companies. They were without power tools, no light bulbs, and suffering. Again, they give us these stories of the past and tell us that there were events. They tell us all of these things where the population was this and that. But at the end of the day, we are not 100% sure that these stories from the 1300s are true. So the only math we can go off of is what we are provided from when we are actually here and documenting it. And now we can do the same thing with the worldwide population, where the population is decreasing at a rate of 66.1765% every 69 years. The rate of the population worldwide should not be increasing or decreasing by 66%. This is obviously showing that there's something going on. At this rate, 1886 would have realistically only had 928 million people, and 1817 worldwide would mathematically already have been down to 314 million people. And this is information that is provided to us, sitting right here in front of our faces, where they, in my opinion, were just waiting for us to find this. At this point, I think this is a game to this group to see who can figure this out. All of this information is all here provided with clues. All we have to do is simply look. The math doesn't lie. The worldwide population would mathematically drop down to only 106 million people in 1748, which was only 31 years after we are told that this group began. In 1679, according to this math, there were only 35 million people here worldwide. The population in 1610 would have only been 11.8 million. 3.9 million people in 1541. And if we bring it all the way back to the year 1200, 800 years ago, the exact same year that the mainstream history is telling us all about, like they were there and saw it happening themselves. They saw those 1200s and 1300s people just smacking those stones right into place, and they're there forever. They are telling us that it was built at the end, not the beginning, but at the end of the 12th century at this rate, every 69 years, decreasing by 66% overall. Nobody is even here. Only 17,700 people worldwide, and this is all based on basic math and numbers that are provided to us. And if this is true, this completely disproves these stories, these tales that people in the 13th century were building massive cathedrals. It basically puts an end to all historical narratives suggesting that a population of basically nobody, more specifically 17,000 people worldwide, were as advanced or more advanced than we are today in terms of construction that we can still see today, yet being primitive, wearing night outfits and fighting with swords, having zero power tools, no light bulbs, riding around on horses, and not having a single truck to ship millions of pounds of stone. No form of communication other than using their local raven to send messages to far lands, having provided zero factual evidence that they were ever even transporting stones, and zero mention of any training processes ever, leaving this part of the story out every single time. or ever explaining how these shipping routes were all figured out. Where is the evidence that we need to show that their stories are true? Where is it? That civilization of nobody with nothing had the capabilities to construct castles, cathedrals, basilicas, and the rest. No. Once you actually stop and think about it for 2 seconds, it simply doesn't add up. The 1200s, riding by feathers and sleeping in huts, suffering in winters, yet knocking out massive cathedrals, faster and in most cases much better than we do today. And they last for thousands of years, and they survive floods, hurricanes, and the rest. And their population was mathematically proven to be basically nobody. This tale that we are told is nonsense at this point. Now that we all have an understanding that the worldwide population, the math, is on our side, that this is not probable. An ancient cathedral located in Athens, Greece, a photo that was taken in 1860, 164 years ago, where we have shown that the worldwide population was just over 300 million, nowhere near the 8 billion mark that we are told that we have today. A cathedral that was sitting on dirt. We're going to zoom in on this thing and find something incredible. The detail on the front of this building is unbelievable. We know that Tartaria's flag was a griffin. We've seen this logo on buildings all over the world, which we have even seen in episode 40. When we went to Wisconsin, a civilization that I believe most likely originated in the Pacific Ocean, in a no-fly zone today, and spread out to the rest of the world from that point on. As we have shown in episode 60 and 61, as we get closer to the front of this building in Greece, we have a logo of the previous civilization. And again, these photos were taken in the 1800s in a collection by Nicholas Katsimpoulas. And here we have the Acropolis in Athens, Greece. And I was just looking at this area on Google Earth, where there is another hill next to the Acropolis. I saw these stairs on the side of this hill. And it's weird because they won't let you drop the view down on them and get a closer look at them. It seems to me like this grass and dirt is covering a much larger structure that we can't see, with the stairs being exposed on the side. It looks like it's been melted and they've just built on top of it. It's very strange. So here at the top, that's where these stairs are. And down here at the bottom is the Acropolis. So you can see how close they are to each other. And before we even look at the mainstream narrative surrounding it, it should just show anyone in a split second that this site was clearly constructed by an advanced civilization. We have detailed columns all over the place. We have some sort of stage here, and we have a mainstream story that should be a lot of fun for us today. And now that we have unlocked the advanced civilization of Mu in episodes 60 and 61 that I think a lot of us enjoyed, we understand where these buildings and people most likely originated from, where Lemuria holds the name Mu inside of it, putting it right in our faces. The Hill of Mu-sis, where Mu is also right in the name, meaning a type of goddess in Greek mythology. Another connection to Mu. It's very interesting. And before we go on with this mainstream narrative, I have to point this out. We all understand that these scaffolding that they have here for decades are put here to make us believe that our civilization is somehow helping the ancient structure survive, repairing it, when we all know that it doesn't need our help at all. This site was obviously destroyed on purpose. It is not crumbling and falling apart over time. The scaffolding is, in a sense, a magic trick. It's there to make 99% of people think that our civilization is giving this place an upgrade, making our civilization think that we are more advanced and that it needs our help when it doesn't need our help at all. When we construct our buildings like this, and then you have the previous civilization's work towering over it, we are not evolving and we are not advancing. We have a side-by-side comparison right here. Now that we have a solid understanding of this area and what it looks like a little bit, let's all take this thing up a notch and have some fun. We know that the population mathematically was basically nothing in the 1200s. We've calculated it to around 17,700 people worldwide. Now, could you imagine the 600s based on the math and the data that we've been given at a decreasing population rate of 66.17% every 69 years, where we saw that there would have only been 11.8 million people in 1610. and 17,000 people in the year 1196. Well, I did the math, and based on the numbers that they have provided us, and based on a 66.1765% population decrease rate per 69 years, in the year 600, the population worldwide would have been 3 people, meaning that either the beginning of human existence was in or around the year 644, based on math, or something massive happened and reset the population very recent. Either way, something massive is going on here that's just been uncovered, especially when the mainstream history tells us that the Acropolis of Athens, Greece, was constructed on a massive hill around the year -1300 to -1200, which we know the population worldwide would have been 0. Even if the population hasn't always decreased at 66%, the simple fact is that going back in time, the population decreases. This is proven through the data that they provided us. The population in -1300, however you want to go about it, would have been 0. If you are going off the mainstream story, their data, you can say that there were plagues. You can say that there were these stories, when we know that these stories have massive flaws at this point. Anything provided hundreds of years ago can easily be picked apart. We have done this hundreds of times at this point, based on facts, things that we can prove, things that we have here right in front of us, data. It proves to me that we aren't wrong. The population data was always a massive key for us. A key that proves that there was a previous civilization here before us, and something massive happened in this place that we all live, right around the year 1776, worldwide. This information, this data, that 3 people were here worldwide in the year 644. This math, it's been here. It's always been here. It's just been waiting for us to see it. And now that we all do, we can all go much, much deeper. It's been a while since we've investigated my personal favorite location for the old world research, a place that by just being there will put you right back into the old world instantly. And that place is Budapest, where we have Buda Castle, where they have broken the rooms of this palace into 6 different things, including a national gallery, a historical museum, and a library. A palace library in Budapest, where we know this isn't the only library in Budapest, where they also have the Metropolitan Urban Library, located right down the road, housing Budapest's largest public collection of books, over 1.1 million volumes. And Budapest must like their books, since we also have the Americana Public Library of Budapest. And we've seen this one before, which is right next to the Parliament building. Have you ever seen a library like this in your life? Do any of our towns have any future plans to knock any libraries out that look anything like this in the upcoming months? No. So these libraries are all right next to each other. Let's go back to the first one, within the walls of Buda Castle. And this is very interesting. When they do the same thing that we've seen all over the world, and they name it something else. If you're just reading through this very quickly, they act like this thing was built in 1802, and they try to trip people up with the constant name-changing game. When we know this isn't true, we know that it wasn't originally a library. We know that this is a part of Buda Castle, where Buda Castle, we are told, and according to their story, was built between 1247 and 1265, 777 years ago, not even close to this 1802 date. And they have these dates down. Everything is documented. No mistakes were ever made, because these 1200s people were just hard workers. They weren't distracted, and they were just very dedicated to their craft. They worked by candlelight and touched up that stone with their lucky duck feathers. And it's here forever. They pretend to have these dates pinned down, 1247 and not 1246. And King Bela IV of Hungary, him and his crew, wrapped this thing up in 1265 on the dot. They know all of the information. The whole story is documented, but they give us 0 details on the construction. every single time. They don't tell us who these master builders were. They don't tell us where they learned this technology to build massive palaces. The king just got it done, and that's that. And we're supposed to just believe that. They give us these drawings of it with two guys in a canoe, just taking it all in from 1490 on the dot, when we all know that this could have been easily drawn last night. And 3 years later, they found some colored pencils and got this one done for us. It's very nice of them. 30 years later, the color is gone, and we are back to black and white and two more people waving down here at the bottom. And Budapest had a very nice community in the 1530s, 100 years later, according to the mainstream narrative. 100 years later, we're back to color. Cannons firing at each other, where we all know that firing cannons into your own buildings is completely normal and realistic. Now, on September 1526, 498 years ago, Buda was sacked and burned, and the royal palace was not damaged, of course. The statues were destroyed a few years later. This is all documented, and the paperwork is in hand. No. Now, I say this because going back through the first 63 episodes so many times, they have zero documented information about the 1800s. So many times, they don't know who the architect was or who the construction company was. You can see this for yourself when we emailed these buildings in episode 33. But they can pin down a date in 1526, and they know all about the story. Now, we also know that they tell us that Buda Castle was constructed in 1247 to 1265, where we have shown in episode 63, mathematically, according to the data that they provided us, that the world population is decreasing every 69 years, going back in time, at a rate of 66.1765%. And this is according to what we are being told, where we have shown that the population in 1265 was only 52,000 people worldwide, not just in Budapest. The size of a town today was the size of the world population in the year that they're telling us that they knocked out a palace that lasts forever. Now, we all know that this was constructed by a very powerful, very intelligent civilization, and the population worldwide definitely took a massive hit at some point before the 1700s, where humans, I believe, repopulate back to billions of people relatively fast. I think the real population chart looks much different than what we're shown. I think that there are many times that the population worldwide is in the billions, based on what they're telling us. You can look at this chart for yourself, showing that basically nobody was even here in the 1200s, according to the mainstream narrative. This shows that nobody could build massive palaces with no power tools, zero equipment, no training processes. The 25 people that lived in Budapest, their only edge against our civilization today was having a little better work ethic. And that's not working anymore. These charts are nonsense. They show how fast humans truly do recreate to the population that we're at today, which is why they are able to reset the population so often, in my opinion, using the same ridiculous narratives over and over for the exact same buildings, using the same technology that was here before, and just pretending like it's all brand new. Where this place that we live is much different than we're being told, where everything is reused. Everything is given back to us. Everything is one big cycle. Everything. The years go from January to December. Every year, seasons, days, technology, and civilizations. Everything is one big cycle. Everything. And I wouldn't be shocked at all if we do too. I wonder if they know this. This all feels like some sort of treasure hunt, like some sort of game. To see who can find this information, where we have all heard the saying that they have to tell us like it's a rule, where I'm starting to think it's not that they have to tell us, it's that they want to tell us, like it's fun to them. To see who can crack the code, that nearly everything in our so-called reality is complete nonsense. And our true reality is much deeper than what we're told, where one of the only things that is free in this world is an indoctrination program that comes to your house in the morning and picks you up every single day as a small kid. And you don't know any different because your parents did the same thing too. So the last time we looked into Budapest, we saw this courtyard where they have this library, and it's right next to the Parliament building that we have talked about. It also has the Chocolate Museum and so much more, where today I want to show you all why Budapest is my #1 location worldwide. And it's because nearly every single building is a palace. If there's one place in the world I would want to visit, this is it. And I would love to go inside these buildings and see if there's basements and see if these basements had tunnels, windows, and doors that lead to dirt. I wouldn't be shocked at all. We see this kind of stuff in the USA. So seeing it in Budapest, I'm sure these tunnels would be incredible. I wouldn't be shocked at all if these buildings are bigger than we can see under the ground. So here we have another museum where they have taken the true meaning of this building right off the front, where this gets interesting. They tell us that the past 150 years of this building's history have been largely determined by a struggle to maintain its facilities and keep its collection safe. Struggling to keep its collection safe? From who? Is there a reason that Budapest is still filled with palaces and the rest of the world has had thousands of fires in individual buildings that we have located? Thousands of buildings destroyed in so-called great fires, carpet bombed in wars, like we have seen in Dresden, Germany, where, in my opinion, every single one of these major cities worldwide looked like Budapest. Budapest has survived all of these things, the great fires, the wars, and the rest. Is there something protecting this location? It's very interesting. And remember, this is the location that Nikola Tesla went and worked in 1881, where he was the chief electrician, and then went to the USA and had all of these incredible inventions. Now, were they inventions, or did he learn a few things while over in Budapest? Now, we have seen the exact same narrative before, where we go back to our Balboa Park episodes, where they say that they moved from building to building over and over and over before finally settling on a palace. And it lasts forever and looks like it was built by the gods. We are told that they moved into its first home in 1892. 1 year later, inadequate conditions forced them to move again into an apartment building. 1898, their permanent location was born. Well, no, because 1906 they moved again to the Millennial Exhibition's empty Hall of Industry. But in 1924, storm damage, of course, prompted yet another relocation over to a school building where 5 years later they reopened using 30 schoolrooms until 1975 rolls around and they get the Palace of Justice building. So they just throw all of these locations into the story to distract us all from the point. And the point is that this is a palace and we want to know the true history of the building. We don't care about this random group that is occupying the palace. At least not today, we don't. It's literally throwing a bunch of nonsense out there and hoping we give up by the time we get to the end of the story. That has nothing to do with what we want to know. The good thing is we found the building and we have gotten through the nonsense. The Palace of Justice was designed by Alois Hausmann. And we're definitely going to get back to this guy later in the episode. In 1891, knocking this building out in 3 years in the 1800s, before the power tool was invented. In 1895, where it has a lobby with marble columns and an impressive staircase. And this is just your everyday museum in Budapest. If you want to feel like you're back in the previous civilization, all you got to do is go to Budapest. It is by far the most incredible place that I've seen to this point. And I honestly don't think that we've even covered 1% of it, where they also tell us that this building is under renovation. And I was honestly disappointed to see that last sentence because we all know that restoration really means destruction. So I found some really cool pictures of this place that I thought you'd all want to see. And then, like I mentioned earlier, we have the best part, in my opinion, where we are given the individual that is pinned as the man that got this palace done. Mr. Hausmann, where we know that when they pin a guy to one building, they pin him to a lot more. they give us this list where they pin this character to 39 palaces, where the first one was destroyed by a fire. So we can add that one to our running tally. And they even pin him as a contest winner of the Parliament building, but they just didn't want to use his design because they have so many more contest winners out there in the 1800s. It's ridiculous. They destroy 6 of his buildings, including his first 4 buildings. And they tell us that this guy was knocking these palaces out all over Budapest in the 1800s before power tools in like 1 or 2 years each. All of them coming back to back to back. When he starts building in 1870 and gets both buildings done that year, 71 to 72, another one done. Between 1874 and 1893, just 19 years, this guy is pinned to getting 33 palaces done. When we know that in modern times, realistic times, when we are all here to see it, the Klutzinski building in Chicago takes 14 years. One building, not 33 buildings, and it's a box, not a palace. And we have power tools, and this guy doesn't. Where it's time to see some of these buildings that this guy is pinned to. Let's start at the top. The first one that they didn't destroy, Church of the Sacred Heart, where this is a worldwide agenda, a worldwide narrative key. And we unlocked it right here on this channel in the 8th of April, 1848. A huge fire burst out and the Catholic Church burnt down to the ground, where the Savior, the man, the myth, and the legend builds them a new one. When we know that this church, the one we're looking at, it is the original building. Finding a fire narrative never gets old to me. It actually surprises me more and more every single time. It's really shocking that this information, this clue, was just sitting here and we never saw it until now. They tell us that this building was done in a year, and then the next one was done in 2 years, where we clearly have technology on the roof of this thing. And it's very odd when you look at their Facebook page, where we know that they tell us that it was constructed in 1878. These gravestones are dated 1792 to 1869 and 1796 to 1834. This is not even close to the construction date that they're telling us of 1878, and would predate this master builder character, where we are told that he was born in 1847, which is 13 years after this person passed away that lived there. So we know at this point that something major is off with this narrative and this character, and this character is beginning to look sketchy. Not only is that all strange, but we also have this guy off building like 6 other palaces at the same exact time. The City Hall Amphitheater, which was destroyed. And then we have this, his 11th building in his young career, where he was only 23 years old when he began knocking out palaces without a power tool, just using his local donkey to pull the stone. We now are given the Austro-Hungarian Bank, which I believe is definitely helping us pin down where our timeline begins. We know about the population. We know about the Great Fires. We know about the inventions. And now we need to see when the money all begins, where they tell us where it started issuing banknotes in 1762, where we also know that this group started in 1717. And for the first time in this timeline's history, the Austrian government issues paper money and caused inflation, where we're just getting started. Today, we are going to investigate a location that does not belong in our historical narrative. Situated 7,000 feet high, located in Turkey, we have Mount Nemrut, yet another location that definitely should have been headlined in History 101. This place should have been one of the first things that we were all told about. Yet my history classes mentioned this location a total of 0 times. Clearly, these heads did not fit into our narrative, where they are 100% destroyed. We can see that 7,000 feet up in the mountain did not matter to the past. Any altitude would do just fine. With their hammers and chisels in hand, they would climb up the mountain, construct perfect statues, and be back home for dinner. The narrative tells us that the pattern of damage to the heads suggests that they were deliberately damaged where it is admitted. And of course, they will never know who it was that destroyed them, where they are trying to tell us that they know exactly who built them and the exact year, where they tell us that it was 62 BC, not 61 and not 63, but negative 2086. They have all of this written down in their journals. No. And they begin to give us backstories on these statues, telling us that they were once seated with names of each god inscribed on them. How would they know this? That they were once seated with names of each god inscribed on them. How would they know this? Unless, of course, they were the ones that removed it. It's very interesting. Where at some point, the heads of the statues were removed from their bodies. Now, within this community, we have shown 80 episodes exposing massive lies within the narrative that we have all been told. We show that there was a previous civilization here, a civilization that was extremely advanced. We have documented where a lot of them may have gone. We have also shown how our current civilization today has been repopulated. We know that there are groups funding these projects, funding these narratives to keep this previous civilization out of our history books. And these groups that were created in the last 60 years continue to go to these incredible sites and destroy them. Renovate them. Where this photo shows their work, in my opinion. You can see the heads at the bottom. And then you can see the stones were placed around the bottom of them. Clearly something that our civilization would do. The supposed evolved and advanced group. Just piling stones on the bottom of them. It's very advanced work. It's completely destroyed. And these heads at the bottom are not the same color as the heads above. So I'm guessing there were more statues that have been blown into millions of pieces here. And then we have this photo where look at all of that grinded up material right behind them. Did we just throw the previous civilization's work right into a grinder and spit it out right behind the statues? You tell me. Here's a different angle of it, where I know I've seen this before. Anyone else see what I see? Let me know in the comments below. A very clear destruction site, in my opinion. And here we can see just how difficult this would be 2,086 years ago, where we have seen this narrative before, when they built a cave thousands of feet in the air just to get a little privacy, when a much better location to chisel perfect statues 2,086 years ago would have been on the ground. And we all know this. They even have these stone molds where Turkey was supposedly running out of space 2,080 years ago. And this site was used for chiseling and stone molding practice, where we are told even the known history of the kingdom is a little shrouded in history. Shrouded to hide something. Where we are told the name of the builder. They know exactly who built these things, if you can believe it. These sculptures were supposedly built by King Antiochus, built as a tomb sanctuary for himself. No. Where the facial features are Greek and the clothing is more Eastern. And for the best part, and we are just getting started today, that these structures are no longer standing in their original positions. So we're at the point that we know that someone, a group, most likely the same group that we have seen all over the world, this group has most likely already been to this location, clearly destroying it. We have shown very clear evidence of this today. Very clearly destroying the previous civilization's work, 7,000 feet into the mountains. Oh, hey, look who has a page on this place. It's our great friends over at the WMF. It's crazy that we have the exact same interests as this group over and over. It's so nice of them to help preserve our favorite spots, where they even have a nice write-up about this location. So let's see what they have to say. The Armenian king ruled the small territory in the 1st century BC. where the king reached a peaceful agreement with Pompey. Of course he did. Yes, very peaceful. There were lots of witnesses. It's a very nice gesture. Lots of handshaking and laughs. And we all know this is 100% a very true story. No, we don't. Where 5 years later, on the dot, the Roman Senate recognized the king as a friend. It's so nice that they were all getting along. It's also so nice that the mainstream treats us like little kids, telling us these incredible stories of friends in the making, where 2,000 years ago, they had master sculptors. But then we get to the 1800s, and we're all back to riding around on donkeys and living in sheds. Master sculptors carving a monumental scene of the king seated among the gods, including Greco-Roman deities. And then Abe Lincoln, a president of the United States, is born in a shack in 1809. So where exactly is the evolving and advancing thing that we're all told about over and over? 2,000 years of advancing. We're told by the mainstream narrative that 2,000 years ago, we had master sculptors carving seated kings 7,000 feet high on a mountain. After 1,800 years of advancing, you would think that we would have evolved a little bit and built more than just a couple statues on a mountain. You would think that we would have advanced, maybe a little bit even, into maybe making stone sheds at the very minimum. But no. We were making wooden sheds that didn't even have a bathroom. You had to go outside to the outhouse. Are we all seeing this? It's incredible when you really think about it. We are told there were some conflicts with Julius Caesar, and we've seen this in episode 77, our 1 hour long episode, where the owner just orders a palace and it's there forever. And now they say that 2,000 years ago, Antiochus orders the assembly of a mountain of crushed rock. He's just ordering it. Any delivery man will do. Back 1,800 years ago, where I think this is a massive lie. That 50-meter pile of crushed rock is 100%, in my opinion, the crushed stone of the incredible work of the previous civilization. All in my opinion, of course. But I think it's pretty obvious at this point. We just need 50 meters of crushed stone way up on that mountain, 7,000 feet in the air. What would we do without that crushed stone 2,000 years ago? This story is ridiculous, where the statues, each over 9 meters tall, have all been damaged by earthquakes. But these were no ordinary earthquakes. These were the earthquakes that would chop the heads off of statues from 2,000 years ago. Extremely picky earthquakes that just wanted the heads. All documented. No, of course it's not. Where the earthquakes took their stone heads and sent them rolling down the hillside. Or did someone go in there and remove the heads and grind most of them up and put them right behind the site, 50 meters high, and then roll the other ones down the hill? What do you think? You tell me. Where it was, of course, rediscovered in 1881. So let's get this straight. They didn't even know about this place until 1881. And archaeological activity only began in 1953. Rediscovered in 1881, exactly like we have talked about here so many times. With our civilization, all of us, just starting only a few hundred years ago, our timeline that we are all given, beginning around 1700, finding this place in 1881, and then knowing all about the negative 62s, 2,086 years ago, knowing all about it. Not 2,085 years ago, but 2,086 years ago on the dot. They know all about this date. Can you see the lie very clearly now? Where since the start of the excavation, most of the heads have been found. Most of them. Not all of them, but most of them. Incredible. Where the INF was charged with the stabilization, conservation, and presentation of this site, where we know that they just found this place in 1881. So for 1900 years, this place needed a total of 0 restoration projects. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, because we found it, it now needs our help. Where I want to know, do you really think that this place needed our civilization's help? I'm really curious what you think. Please let me know. Solicited WMF to lead the stone conservation and structural consolidation initiatives and to participate in drafting a management plan, where we have seen this before in other narratives, where this is supposed to be a tomb, we are told. Yet there is no body in there. Indeed, the body of the king. It's thought to have been buried in the chambers beneath his man-made mountain, though his tomb has yet to be found. So the mainstream pretends to know all about this site. They pretend to know the dates and the names, all associated with the construction and the reasons why it's there. Yet the one-time physical evidence of their claim needs to be presented. Their claim is proven to be a lie. There's no individual in there where we know they haven't found anything. It's not a tomb. Never has been, and it never will be. So are they still looking? Are they still on the hunt for this person? No, of course not. Where I'm sure it's possible, just like we've seen at Easter Island in episode 60, that some of these heads are just the top of the entire structure. Missing heads, where these heads were possibly giving us depictions of what the previous civilization might have looked like, giving too much away to all of us, and just needing those earthquakes to chop all of their heads off and rolling them down the hill and leaving everything else perfectly in place. It makes total sense. Oh no, it doesn't. I am just so thankful that we have so-called experts that went to college, majoring in time travel, to tell all of us about the year 62 BC. Because what would we ever do without them? I decided to check this place out on Google Earth. And the very first place that I pick to drop the guy down, I see this, where you can see the site, and then turn the camera to the side. And we have this thing over here on the side, which is pretty incredible. Now you can see that if these are true depictions of the past, these individuals' heads were so much bigger than ours are today. We are tiny compared to the past, in my opinion. We've shown this a lot. We are even shown that there are tunnels at this site, entrances to an overall structure. And of course, right near the site, you have this bridge, showing that this whole area is extremely significant to the past. A bridge that is still working today, where our bridges fall apart in a few decades. And we all know this. Let's check this place out even more, where we can see this mound of crushed up stone, where my guess is that something is underneath it, with things being buried, as you can see in this depiction right here. But I think that there's something much bigger than this, possibly further down as well. It's very interesting. Remember, all we are told about it is that they ordered it to be done, and that was it. So we don't get much information on this mound of crushed up stone, other than them just ordering it for no reason at all. And do you understand how hard this would be to crush up this much stone and place it here, up on a 7,000-foot high mountain, 2,000 years ago? Just order it, and it's there forever. And the timeline that we are told about, this is ridiculous. So we started over there. And then over here, we have more stone structures. So let's just go around more and spin it back. And you're going to see that the earthquake also attacked this statue's head as well. Goodness, can you believe this earthquake? Honestly, how did we believe this nonsense for so long? Earthquakes that just attack heads of stone structures on a 7,000-foot hill. I can't believe this. Who else sees a massive destruction site? I do wonder, why did they leave any of them? Why didn't they just destroy them all? And look at the location of these things. Just coming way up here to carve statues and lay a big mound of crushed up stone, all for a tomb. And no tomb is even there. This is not the true story, in my opinion. It's completely made up. And on Google Earth, you can even see people going up to the top. So I'm not sure if you can still do that today, but I would love for somebody to scan with ground penetrating radar and see if something is under all of these broken pieces of stone. Oh, what is this? In September of 2012, a group of archaeologists using ground penetrating radar and related techniques discovered a pyramidal shaped chamber about 6 meters long and 2.5 meters wide and 3 meters high, and about 15 meters or 50 feet beneath the apex of the Nemrut Temulus. They are letting us know that there are things under this stone. It was not just an order to get a bunch of crushed up stone for no reason. This was deliberate. There is something underneath, and we are correct. They speculate it could be a sarcophagus, along with other objects, possibly statues, where 2 other chambers have been located. Near the larger pyramidal chamber, where the Turkish authorities are not allowing the site to be excavated. So we can only speculate as to what is in the hidden chambers, where the Turkish authorities stumble on this place in the 1800s. They did not construct it, but now they are not allowing the world to see what is under all of that crushed up stone, where the ground penetrating radar gave this depiction underneath that stone, proving that there are things being hidden from us. Can you see very clearly now that we are correct, that this is a worldwide operation to suppress the truth? We have seen this in China, where they have trees and dirt on top of pyramids, hiding things that would explain our true past, hiding things under massive mounds of crushed up stone, where the stone was most likely the old world's work. Are we understanding now how this works? How the narrative is controlled 100% everywhere? How you are not allowed to know what is really going on at these locations, at these sites. And you're just told about a friendship story instead. A bunch of nonsense, where most people believed it until now, where we are just getting started on this channel. We will be uncovering another site, this time located all the way in Syria, where we are told that this site was constructed in 1300 BC, predating Turkey's site by nearly 1,300 years. A site that we were told had 3 phases, and they know the exact dates of all of them, where we are shown the exact same thing, where griffins, a possible connection to Tartaria, griffins that have their heads removed from the overall statue yet again, where if they were teaching about these sites in our history classes, I think I would have been a little bit more excited to get brainwashed every day. Removing the heads, exactly like they did in Turkey, where I don't see this as a coincidence at all, especially when they're located over 200 miles apart, destroying the truth, which is most likely the exact same thing that they did with the head of the Sphinx, located in Giza, Egypt, where we have footprints, where we are told that these footprints, each about 3 feet, 3 inches in length, we are told are carved into the stone floors. Where is it possible that these are not carvings and they are actual footprints of the past, where these feet are feet of an individual measuring 66 feet in height, giants, all located at Andara, a site that was just found in 1955. Yet again, another location that is destroyed, set atop an artificial hill, where you have to ask, what could still be underneath this site, where they tell us that this place has a lot of similarities to Solomon's Temple, also known as the first temple in Jerusalem, all located in Syria. Again, I'm at the point where I don't believe that these stories, these locations, were from thousands and thousands of years ago. I believe that this all occurred a lot closer to our timeline than we've been told, possibly only a few hundred years ago. And these dates of 1300 BC and 740 BC are given to us by some random excavator, where the surveying sculptures depict lions and sphinxes are comparable to the cherubim of the first temple, also left to speculation is to whom the temple is dedicated, where yet again, the temple was significantly damaged by Turkish jets during the military operation in 2018, where 60% of the structure was reduced to rubble. And we can see the site here, where it looks like there's some weird pattern in the ground all over the place. It's very interesting. And of course, no street view here on Google Earth, with the closest street view located up this road. Why do you think that is? Why do you think we just can't see this place? And we have more from the footprints, and we've all heard of the fingerprints of the gods, Graham Hancock. But have we just located the footprints of the gods? The entire front facade of the temple has been destroyed, and the site's emblematic basalt lion was stolen in 2019 by members of the Hamza Division, which is part of the Syrian National Army, where at this point, we can all see very clearly that our true history is being destroyed worldwide and has been for a very long time. Let me know in the comments what you think that they wanted to hide from us. I have an idea, but I want to know all of your opinions at this point, after everything that we've discussed. This is a photo of the site from before the bombings, where it's clearly already been destroyed. Heads have been removed that would have shown depictions of the past that do not fit in at all with the narrative that we've all been told today. And here is a photo of the giant lion that was stolen in 2019, where in my opinion, it looks like something that would hold something of value inside of it. Here are more photos of the site before the bombing. And here is the site today. Talk about going into the middle of nowhere to drop a bomb, purposefully destroying an extremely valuable site. There's no doubt about it. This was deliberate, complete destruction of the past worldwide. Like we have shown, it is no longer a question if we are correct or not. We're spot on at this point. There's something massive being hidden from us, our true past, our true purpose. And it is not just one location of the world. It is in every single country, every city, every town. We are not told the truth about our historical narrative. There was an extremely advanced group of people right here where we are today, a massive group. They were here much closer to our timeline than what we have been told. And knowing this unlocks so many questions, where questions from thousands of people, all with different points of view, different skill sets, different knowledge, all working together. These questions, they will always find answers.
Hey everyone. Today we're going to be discussing a lost history, a very strange world where babies were literally sold as commodities and shipped as mail. Insane, right? What does it say about our past when, just 100 years ago, people were essentially shopping for infants? And why isn't this widely known? Could it be that this piece of history was deliberately buried or omitted due to its unsettling implications? I mean, did people actually need to mass purchase babies? Was this part of some grand repopulation scheme? Or a migration wave where orphans and young kids were sold and moved westward? We've touched on this topic before. About a year ago, we released a video called Repopulation Postcards and the Cabbage Patch Kids. Our understanding has since evolved, and we got our hands on a brand new collection of absolutely jaw-dropping postcards that we can't wait to share with you. If you missed that earlier video, here's a quick rundown. While researching for our old world Photoshop episode, we stumbled upon a peculiar trend in postcards from the early 1900s. These postcards, dated from 1890 to 1920, are a genre unto themselves and were circulated throughout Europe and the United States. But here's where it gets wild. Not only do these cards feature babies sprouting from cabbages, there are other categories that make it abundantly clear what's going on. It would seem that babies were being sold in baby farms or even baby shops. We're about to unravel a historical enigma that will leave you questioning everything you thought you knew about the past. Now, that previous video did very well and went viral, but there were some things that we glossed over or didn't fully unpack. This video aims to set the record straight. This topic isn't just about whimsical images of babies and cabbages. Some viewers actually thought we were saying babies were literally grown in cabbages, and a few content creators even accused us of photoshopping the cards to deceive people. The disbelief mainly comes from the fact that many have never encountered these postcards before, but they are very real. And what they suggest isn't just shocking, it could completely upend our understanding of history. Before we dive into our updated collection, let's break this down a bit more because there's a lot to digest. Repopulation? Babies for sale? What are we even talking about? Yes, not only have we expanded our collection of these postcards, but we've also translated them. And now we've gained a clearer understanding of what these cards depict and the messages that they carry. It appears that these postcards were essentially advertisements, a way for people to literally select the baby they wanted to purchase shown on the cards. If you're a regular on our channel, you're probably already familiar with the cabbage babies category. We covered this extensively in our first repopulation postcards video, but that's just scratching the surface. There's another category that might be even more unsettling. We're calling it the à vendre postcards. À vendre means for sale in French. While a significant chunk of these postcards are in French, this phenomenon wasn't limited to France. We can say this with certainty because our collection includes American cards with US postage stamps, as well as German and Dutch cards. So let's be clear, these postcards depict babies as products, essentially turning them into commodities available for purchase. And that's not just creepy, it's a stark reminder of how different social norms and practices were just a century ago. Alright, well, let's start off with a postcard that blatantly shows two babies next to a sign saying à vendre or for sale. The caption at the top reads, Jean who laughs, Jean who cries. At first glance, you might think it's just some quirky vintage humor, but my suspicion? We're looking at something far more insidious. These are actually advertisements. Still skeptical? Check out this next one. Modern Baby Bazaar. Free entrance. Trustworthy establishment. Does not fear competition. Everything is for sale. All you have to do is take. We don't accept returns. Do you find anything cute about that? The card is literally branding itself as a trustworthy establishment and emphasizes a no return policy. Is this trying to point towards something much deeper? Also note the Rex label at the bottom right corner. This indicates one of the studios involved in creating these postcards. They weren't the only ones, but it seems they had a role in distributing these cards. There could be a connection to Rex Theaters and Cinema, although that's not confirmed. Let's examine another card. This one also boldly states, Bébés à vendre, and here, the babies are displayed in baskets, as if they were produce in a grocery store. But it doesn't stop there. A baby is shown growing out of a cabbage, tying this back to the larger theme of repopulation. It's clear that we're not talking about cabbages here. This is about the commodification of human life. Here's another one featuring cabbages being sold. To the left, we see babies sprouting from both cabbages and roses, freshly harvested if you will. On the right, there's a display of babies, each accompanied by a phrase. The card's title, Babies for Sale. With them, you will have the greatest of joys. The text on the left of the card states, Your choice, all our babies bring happiness. Then under each baby, there are phrases almost like mini resumes. For example, I will be good. I will not pee in the bed. I am cheerful. I would love you. I will wait for you. I would be nice. It's almost as if each baby is accompanied by a sales pitch, a list of features to help you make your purchase. So we're forced to ask, what's going on here? It's not just an odd historical artifact. These postcards serve as a window into an unsettling era, one that treated the youngest members of society as mere products, complete with selling points and no return policies. Yes, these are babies being sold in a cart. The cabbages are symbolic of them being grown and sold as produce. This card proclaims, "The cries of Paris. Here are pretty cabbage heads, babies, not expensive." Are we to understand that these children were being sold at bargain prices? And let's not ignore the emotional aspect. Many of these children depicted don't look happy. Some even appear to be screaming or visibly terrified. There are also cards showing babies confined in cages, treated like pets or even animals. Where's the humor in that? The card is explicit. Babies for sale. Do you want a baby? The implications are staggering. This isn't just an odd or quirky element of historical ephemera. These postcards are evocative of a time when societal values and norms were disturbingly different from today, to the point where the commodification of children was openly depicted and possibly socially acceptable. So the question is, what does this all mean for our understanding of history and human morality? Because clearly, these aren't just pieces of vintage art. They're windows into a world we can barely comprehend. This next card might just be the most unsettling one. The text is simple but chilling. For sale. Buy me. I'm bored here. And the background is just as disturbing. An empty street devoid of any life or activity. The child is bored, but that boredom seems to hint at something far more unsettling. What are we to make of this? An empty street? A bored child for sale? Could this be suggestive of a larger, darker issue at play? Maybe these children weren't just bored, maybe they were neglected, or worse, trapped in a system that viewed them as goods rather than as human beings. Moving on, here's another depiction of a baby store. Let's break down the text. Child market, beautiful opportunities. Choose the cutest, large selection of babies. So a large selection of babies. Once again, note the text at the bottom. A vendu. These babies are for sale. This isn't just some quirky oddball postcard. Now this one's super interesting. This postcard belongs to the multi-babies, water babies category within our collection. This card is unique, however, because of the writing on the back. It's dated to 1907 from the postmark and was actually sent in the US. The message says, "Dear L, don't you think they are very pretty on the other side? If so, hurry up and order one before they get sold. Love from Aggie." So hold up. It's not just a surreal artwork. This person is saying to the receiving end that they need to hurry up and put in an order before they get sold? That's beyond weird, and it seems to suggest that this is more than just art, but a way to promote the selling of babies to those in the know. Check this one out. This particular card actually has the babies' names on it. This suggests that these aren't just made up characters. These babies are based on real children. Are we looking at a strange form of Victorian advertising where the artwork actually serves as a catalog for choosing a baby to buy? The caption translates to, "I wish you a similar small family," and it features 26 babies on the card. So who are these kids? Are they orphans? Could this be a family portrait? Intriguingly, the ink used for the babies' names matches the ink on the back of the card. So whoever sent this card knew these babies by name. It would seem that this card was sent with the intention of facilitating a purchase. Dated to August 1903, the postcard is addressed to a Mr. and Miss Charlot. It appears to have been sent to a couple. But the big question is, why? And why hasn't this facet of history ever been shared with us? Was this kept secret? This mysterious practice is not an isolated event. It connects to broader topics like the orphan trains, foundling hospitals, and even world fairs. We actually have a postcard that displays these cabbage children as they're on sale, and the back of the card indicates that this was part of an exposition. Just like the other cards, these children have special traits or skills listed, almost like a resume, seemingly to entice potential buyers. So, to truly grasp the implications of these mysterious postcards, we need to talk about the first ever narrative film. While there were short films and moving pictures before this, the first narrative movie with an actual storyline was Le Fée aux Choux from 1896. This movie shows a fairy who's not just a magical being, but acts more like a merchant, handling multiple parentless children quite abruptly. So much so that it might even be considered abusive today. In a 1902 remake titled Sage Femme de Première Classe, or Midwife to the Upper Class, the story even gets more disturbing. The children are kept in some sort of reserve where wealthy couples come to shop for them, similar to how one would shop for products. Strangely, live babies are used in the film, crying as they're laid on the ground for their potential parents to examine. This historical context provides vital insight into what these Cabbage Patch postcards might really be. They're not just bizarre artworks of a bygone era, but could actually be a catalog-type advertisement for the sale of children, especially when we consider that these Cabbage Patch Kids are being offered up for sale in a context that predates or is contemporary with these early films. We even have a postcard in our collection that's particularly striking in its relief style, something we haven't seen really in any other postcard. But once again, it clearly indicates that the babies in these Cabbage Patches are up for sale. So, when we connect the dots between the postcards and these early films, the implications are deeply troubling and raise serious ethical questions about practices and values from a century ago. For sure, the struggle to digest this hidden chapter of history is magnified by the simple fact that it was never part of our official education. And yet, the echoes of these practices have lived on through folktales and nursery stories. The stork delivered the baby, or you were found in a cabbage patch. These cultural explanations for where babies come from might sound innocent enough, but when you dig deeper, they may actually have darker origins. Were these stories merely created as a way to sidestep awkward discussions about reproduction? Or could they be distorted echoes of real, unsettling practices from not so distant history? Well, let's take a look at some of these postcards in hand. Okay. Hey, what's up, guys? We just wanted to show you in person in hands our updated repopulation postcard collection. So we're gonna go ahead and start with the Cabbage Patch Babies. These ones are way better than the last time. Super cool. Let's not go so fast, hold on. So yeah, we're not gonna go through all the handwriting just yet, but we just wanna quickly go through them. This one is a, let's flip it over really quick, let me see this one. Yeah, okay, cool. Turn it back on. It doesn't say Avando, but yeah, this one's an old one. Go ahead, keep going. Let's see. Babies and cabbages. I have a post stamp. Let's see. That's 1905. So let's keep going. This one is basically the sisters, like the new mother, gathering the baby freshly from the field. You guys have probably seen this one. This is from the last time. Really old looking. Cool. This one's really special because it also has an orphan train. This one I think is Dutch. Parents. Yeah, and the parents. This is 1905. That's what it is. Yep. This one's crazy. Yeah, it's one of the top ones. Let's keep going. This one's crazy because of the glass top, kind of serving it, presenting it, the cabbages. Let's go ahead. Okay, yeah, this one is an Avondale cabbage patch field, so it's really special. And it's also, let me see if I get it at the right angle. You can see, turn it around so you can, it has a relief. It's super unique. I've never seen any postcard with this kind of style, so really special. And let's see, I don't, oh, whatever. I was trying to guess the year. Can't see it. Can't remember.
Can't see either.
All right, next one. So that's cabbage seed. That's what that says. 1923.
100 years.
Pretty cool. Here's one of those photo montages. I love this style. It's pretty crazy. Nothing on the back. This is another cabbage field. This is the one that I was thinking of. And it's interesting because you'll see some of the same children reused as stock photos. But this one is special because it's a World Fair postcard. Turn it around. You can see Exposition Internale. So, very special one. And this is another Avondale, Babies for Sale. Yeah, that one. I think we might have two of those, or two that are very similar. This is also kind of like a multi-babies, but still, they're in cabbages. This one's crazy. It's illustrated or painted, but you basically see farm animals with the children, so some symbolism going on there.
I think this one's a monkey.
Yeah, that's definitely a monkey. And there's like a, I guess like a collection or different versions of this one. The next one is the same thing, of the same style.
It's like the same artist.
Baby freshly plucked from the fields. Yeah, and this one, this is the Blanche, yeah. Beautiful writing. This one's weird. I think this was 1920 or something, Spanish. Turn around. Yeah, this one's in Spanish. 1935, yeah. So a later one.
Interesting. The red is the only thing
Yeah.
emphasized.
Baby's getting married. And a cabbage patch. Can you see the year? That's 1907. So,
Grab the next batch.
and this one is at the bottom. I guess we're not going to take it out, but because it serves as like a good little base background. But this is a really special one because it's like basically the most babies of like real photos of babies into one artwork that I've seen. So it's an interesting composite. But anyways, now we're going to, can you get the, okay, you got it. So this is the babies and trains category. So let's keep going. So yeah, it's not just cabbages. That's what's so fascinating. 1909, they also have these babies being shipped or transferred on trains.
Rex.
Yeah, foilers. So these are young soldiers. There's a couple more of those that we'll see. Yeah, and this one's we have 3 of these from different, with different backs, different title text on them. There it is again. Grain, the chow. So that's cabbage seed. 1912. Super interesting. Yeah, this one's weird. Photo montage style. Super, super weird. Okay, so now we're going to go to the next category. And this one is the multi-babies. There's a lot of these. So, okay. Yeah, this is interesting. There's a lot of the style with babies in hats. This one's just like your typical, I don't know, hunting or beaver hat or something. But it gets even more interesting because this one seems to depict Phrygian cats. Petite Republic, so they're like socialist babies or being programmed or something. And then you have all this interesting architecture, so that one's super special. What year? Can't make it out clearly, but so this one is a very interesting one. probably already brought it up, but the names are on the children, and the message basically says, I wish you could have a small little family like this. And it's to a couple, so 1903. But let me see those names one more time, just so we can get, no, the other side, the front
Oh,
side.
my bad.
Here. So you can kind of get a, whoever wrote this knew the names,
Except this one.
or it's a nickname.
I guess so.
Okay. So there's actually a lot more of these, but this is the only one that we have in our collection. No, we have a couple more eggs, but there's a lot more of this, like a lot of them on a farm, or like kind of like a being incubated.
Yeah.
This is the babies being delivered. We have two of this one. This one's kind of interesting. Maybe a higher class of babies or something. They have a nicer little chariot of some sort.
Man, I can't get over the
Yeah, the nice writing.
calligraphy.
Super cool. Yep, this is a baby farm. The Farm of Babies. Let's see. 1921 is the postmark. Okay, this is the style of babies basically defecating in chamber pots. There's a couple of these.
Yeah.
It's kind of weird. Let's see. Oh, something. So early 1900s. This is they're being transferred in a like a tram, electric. So interesting. 1910. There's the potties one, and then you got your top hats, of course.
This little guy right here.
There's a couple
Oh,
of them.
he's on a clock.
Yeah.
Strange.
And this is the mushroom style. This one's kind of weird. You won't see it in this one, but the Amanita is gonna probably, I think we have one with
I
that.
think these are bullets.
Yeah.
Oh, there's some writing there too. Not sure
05.
of the year.
1905.
Oh, 1905. Okay.
Multi-babies being delivered. So. Babies being hung on the
Yeah, I don't know.
telephone. Yeah, there's a couple of those. This is babies being intoxicated. Very strange. Bizarre smoking, drinking, hookah, 1907. This one to me is my favorite in terms of surrealism, because they're kind of like all in the bed and all in this room, but if you look up close, there's also a painting of them in cabbages. I don't know, it's just kind of weird. More of the chamber pots. Yeah, so that's like four different styles right there. There's another one. This one's kind of a weird style. Babies being hanged from power poles, like an energy source or something. Babies being hatched. And yeah, babies being delivered in aircrafts, hot air balloons. Got a lot of those. That's 1908.
Another eggs.
Being hatched. Now these are weird. There's a couple different ones of these, but babies basically relying on the milk of a cow. I think 1915, I'm not sure. Oh, we have another one of those. So I think we have two of those, possibly. Or maybe it's a little,
Chamber pots, man.
yeah, maybe it's a little different, I'm not sure. This is them working on the fields. Yeah, this is the bell message. I remember this. No, not the bell, sorry. The guy in the back who wrote it. Dear Bell, I think. Yeah, I think that's what that was.
Interesting.
Here's the multi-babies hats again. They have a lot of different style of hats. I know we don't have this the top hat one, but there's one with a bunch of top hats. Like they're all wearing top hats, which is weird. Babies hanging out on the roof. 1905. Okay. We're gonna go to the next one. We'll do the water babies.
Oh, these are the stork.
Yes, I put them into one group. So yeah, this is the stork water baby category. Let's look at this one for a little bit longer. Go back to the front. Yeah, they're kind of all grouped up here in one little area. Very strange. They're riding the storks. What if that's a dog?
Definitely a stork.
Cool. Storks teaching little babies. A little classroom. Kind of the water wheel, the power source type thing. Yeah, water babies. 1906. This one is a crazy one. I probably already brought it up, but this is the one where on the back it's basically saying to hurry up and make an order. Let me see if I can show you. Dear Elle, don't you think they are very pretty on the other side? So it's basically saying,
It says,
if so, hurry up. You want to do it?
Yeah. If so, hurry up and make. Oh, actually, no, I don't know what it's saying.
Order.
Oh, yeah, hurry up and order. Okay, you say it.
Yeah, you get it. Hurry up and order one before they all get sold.
Oh, there we go.
Love from Aggie.
Interesting.
What's the year? Hold on, let me see the
Nope.
year. So yeah, this is a crazy one.
Oh,
Because I
seven.
mean, I don't,
1907.
maybe it's a joke, but still pretty insane. Water babies landing, possibly a shipment. 1905. Yeah, these are just weird. Really look at the faces. Yeah.
Louisiana? What is this?
No,
No.
looks
Okay.
fine.
Yeah, I guess
Let's
you're
go to
right.
the. Yeah, this one's interesting because it says Stork Magazine, basically kind of like a little reserve, or
The publication?
so they're kind of being. This is like their classroom where they're being taught or kept, like a little orphanage, being delivered by storks.
Cute little boat. And there are nests and trees.
Yep,
Big nests.
1907.
I love this one.
This is the water babies, the water lilies, which gets into Charles Kingsley's book, and so yeah, we'll have to break that down in a future video, but gets into some weird symbolism, life, rebirth, spirits. Oh wait, hold on, sorry. So yeah, this one, I think it's crazy because it could possibly show that the storks are not just mailmen or delivery services, but possibly some kind of air transfer in which packages or babies were delivered. So yeah,
1905, I think.
and here we have the stork mailman delivering babies.
1906, I think. 5 or 6.
Yeah. Cool. We got 2 more categories. It's just a lot of good ones, you know. I want to show them. Okay, so this lady is what we call the Red Woman, which is also the midwife, the lady that you see from the Alice Guy films. She's basically the merchant, the lady that collects the babies and sells them. Yeah, and some of these are just a little creepy. There's one with the fishing hook. Yeah, because some of these I don't think are like the original babies. You can see they kind of just like moshed the face on top of the body, which gives it this really weird look. 1906. I think this one was in our old collection, but I just put it in there because, I don't know, she shows up in many different categories.
Ooh, I like the back of this one.
Yeah, that one's pretty.
And the handwriting is so nice.
Yeah, so she just stares at the camera while she has a multitude of babies in buckets, pulling them out of the water. Very, very weird. Okay, so we're gonna go through our final category. And this category is called The Kids From. Yeah, and this one, I would say this one's probably the most insane one. Because you have, hold on, don't change,
Oh,
don't,
my bad.
yeah, let's see, please. You have a bunch of babies being boiled in a cauldron. You have this strange geometry with the tripod. But the weirdest thing is that this is this has this text that's kind of like separate a little bit that says the kids from and a certain location, and that's the category. In this case, it's Whitehall, Michigan. But yeah, they have a lot of these, which show a large group of children, supposedly at a certain location
Or from.
or from a certain location.
Mhm.
So yeah, and this one, they're all in a pool. This one's Walkerton, Indiana. Let's see the year, 1908. So it looks like. And yes, we have this
Oh, yeah.
postcard. I brought that up, but at this time, it's from Louisville, New York. Yeah, some of these towns are kind of small, so it's kind of weird that they even have these postcards involving these kids. 1909, I think. Here's one with an orphan train. The kids from Redding, California.
He must have fell off.
This one has a hot air balloon. The kids from San Jose, California. And they don't look too happy.
That wouldn't be.
1909.
San Francisco?
Yeah.
Mm.
This one's weird because it's essentially like a submarine delivering to a lighthouse.
Well, not submarine, but.
Yeah, but they're kind of like, it's like hidden under the water a little bit. But this one's from Grants Pass, Oregon.
Lighthouse babies.
Crazy. Okay. U.S.
1908,
postage stamp,
Yeah.
1908.
Michigan.
And this one has babies in cages in some kind of circus zoo situation. Let's see, it's from Melvin, Illinois. Yeah, and this message basically says, oh, will you take your journey like these kids in the front? Which is a weird message. So yeah,
I think that last one.
I don't know if I already showed this one.
I don't think so.
But yeah, that's our updated collection. We got one more thing that we want to show, so hold on real quick. Okay, so we're very excited to announce that we wrote our first book. We're really excited about it and we're very proud. So we just wanted to show you a little bit of it. Let's go ahead and take a little peek.
Start from the front.
Yeah, we'll look at the back. I mean, we really worked really hard on this. We wrote everything ourselves. We designed it. It was kind of like new for us to learn the designer. We used Affinity, so you know we're still learning. But overall, I'm really happy with how it came out. We used KDP, so you know this might not be like the situation that we're gonna do forever, but I think it's a good first start. You know, you get it faster, it's more accessible. So yeah, you know, we chose Amazon. And in the future, you know, I might try some other things. But yeah, let's go to the first page for a second. I just want to show a little bit of it. I mean, it's pretty in depth. We really went in on this. So it's really very visual book. We did the premium ink, and we just break down this whole subject matter in detail. Basically, multiple of the videos that we've done, all in one, but with more detail. And it's super interesting. So yeah, we start off with the baby incubators, foundling hospitals, break down the symbolism. You can go a little bit faster. We don't have to go page by page.
Okay.
You're good. You can just bend it. Yeah, and then we get into the Alice Guy films. We talk about some ancient references. So yeah, give it a little scroll, like maybe pick it up a little bit. Pick up the whole book. You know what I mean? Yeah, like do a little click there. You know, we break down these postcards. We translated the backs. It's kind of all there, you know. I think it makes for a great little coffee table book. You know, you can go show your friends and have some weird discussions, show some family, see what they think.
Definitely a conversation piece.
But yeah, you know, this is what we want to kind of push. We want to do a little bit. We want to do more stuff like this. We want to get better at writing, and this is just the first step. So we would really love your support. It would really help us with doing more research and doing bigger projects. So if you can, don't feel like you have to or anything. But if you're interested and you want to, you know, support the journey, we would really appreciate if you checked it out. Leave us some feedback for sure. You know, we want to improve. So tell us, you know, what do you think? Whether you liked it or not. And one more thing that I wanted to mention, open it to the back. I wanted to show that your guys' comments are in here from the video.
Yeah.
It's the before the gallery.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's basically divided to the front is like in detail breakdowns and explaining everything, and then in the back you have the gallery, you know, so you just have exactly what we showed you right there.
Here's some of your comments.
So yeah, I mean, your comment could be in the book. There's a lot of them that we picked.
Comments from our video.
But anyways, I won't make this too long. But anyway, we're very appreciative of all you guys, and we're just excited, and thank you so much. So yeah, if you want to dive deeper into this captivating subject, check out our first book where we've put together a beautiful collection of early 1900s postcards, each meticulously organized, scanned, and photographed. You see, these postcards are more than just relics. They're like windows to another time. They give us glimpses into an obscured, perhaps deliberately hidden, layer of history that was never a part of our mainstream education. Take the orphan trains, for instance. The prevailing narrative has always framed them as some kind of welfare program. But what if there's more to the story that we've been missing? Similarly, these avant-garde postcards, which mainstream culture often dismisses as quirky or amusing art pieces, take on a new, darker meaning upon closer examination. There's nothing funny about them when you consider the implications. When you factor in the incubators showcased at world fairs, and how Alice Guy was inspired by these displays of premature babies, questions arise. Were these infants merely on display, or were they also up for purchase? Take a look at one postcard where a stork is weighing a baby against a bag of money, symbolizing the infant as a type of tradable asset. Well, this history is not well known, which leads us to explore the history behind the orphan trains, the first narrative film ever made, and these so-called repopulation postcards. Once you connect the dots, it's evident that these are not just fanciful artworks. They symbolize an actual practice that once took place. So why label them repopulation postcards? Simply put, that's the language used on the cards themselves. They depict the repopulation of civilization through what appears to be baby farming. Other imagery includes a device that generates babies, a repopulation tank where men in top hats are attending to a large red woman in a cabbage patch, and an umbrella of repopulation that also seems to act as a prison for these young children. The symbolism of reseeding operations, cabbage seeds, rose seeds, and even the notion of planting future soldiers is rich and provocative. It raises questions about whether children were distributed into cities with the intent of preparing them for war or other societal roles, as indicated by imagery of babies in boot camps. These postcards seem to present an unambiguous narrative of the sale and distribution of babies. Phrases like babies for sale make it difficult to interpret these images as anything other than advertisements for infants as products or produce. Images of storks or delivery men raising children, babies in top hats being groomed for elite society, and disturbing depictions of babies being boiled or set on fire only add to the mystery and darkness behind these postcards. If it's true that our cities are inherited and repopulated after some major event, then the sale and distribution of babies might be a part of a larger operation, perhaps even involving techniques for growing new citizens. Considering that the orphan train movement reportedly relocated over 200,000 children, it begs the question, where did all these children originate? Breaking free from the confines of accepted mainstream history allows us to entertain alternative perspectives, like ancient or Victorian era cloning practices. Far from merely being sold, these postcards hint at babies being actively grown and incubated. This leads us into the arcane and esoteric subject of queen bee goddesses, such as Diana of Ephesus, a figure also symbolically connected to foundling hospitals. The notion of reseeding operations isn't a recent invention of science fiction, but has roots in ancient texts and folklore, suggesting the concept has been entertained for millennia. Given that such transformative knowledge could have been kept hidden, it's plausible that much of this history has been obscured or lost over time. These postcards are far more than just surreal art. They may serve as visual clues to an unsettling and overlooked chapter in history. A chapter where the commodification of infants could have been a widely practiced yet clandestine operation. Unlike most researchers who have examined these cards purely from an artistic lens, delving into their symbolism within the framework of alternative history and societal resets offers a startling new perspective, one that hints at a large-scale selling of babies as products in the early 20th century. We're excited to hear your thoughts on this subject, especially since our understanding has deepened since we first stumbled upon these Cabbage Baby postcards. We just wanted to say that your continued support and feedback.
Kofi, follow me.